Now, for those of you that don't know, Bob Iger did indeed extend his contract over at Disney as CEO until 2026, but make no mistake, Bob Chapek did the same exact thing in June of 2022 when he extended his contract for 3 whole years. Where is he now? This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. And let's jump right into the subject, shall we? Now, we know that Bob Iger and the board are in a constant shakeup still to this day, regardless of Bob Iger, staying until 2026, which, by the way, is never concrete. Anything can change, and we have talked about this, about how basically the Disney board are betting everything on Bob Iger to succeed with, of course, for 2023 regarding the Haunted Mansion, the Marvels, and Wish. If all of those come to succeed, they have full faith in Iger. If they all fail, they want to fire him by January of 2024, ahead of Snow White in March. And speaking about Snow White, Bob Iger's in quite a bit of serious trouble related to this movie, and we're going to be diving into exactly what's going on behind closed doors between Iger, the board, and specifically what's going on with the Snow White marketing strategies and more, and how it's connected to the backlash by many, of course, of the Disney fans around the globe, and many of those that are against Disney also. Now, with that being put out there and said, what's interesting about this is that we know that Bob Iger has been lying the past couple of days, especially when he's talking about how he has no concerns about the current state of Disney, where he really should. He's blaming less foot traffic in the parks on the humidity. It's just pathetic at this point. But with Bob Iger now beginning to initiate his cost containment plan with many upcoming projects from Disney to for Star Wars, Marvel, and the upcoming Disney projects, Iger recently got into big trouble with the board involving the film Snow White. Iger reportedly just greenlit an emergency plan for the 2024 Snow White film, which launches in March of next year, that has much to do with the marketing. Now, it's noted that this emergency plan for Snow White that was initiated during a recent meeting with the board is described to be completely limiting the amount of trailers and TV spots they plan to release to the general public in order to wind down the backlash as much as possible from the people who have a large issue with the controversial images of course, of drastically changing the design of Snow White, portrayed by Rachel Zegler. Both Iger and the board are described to be fully aware about the Snow White backlash, and already delayed the official trailer from releasing during the summer, specifically during July, and are now officially waiting until September, most likely during D23, reportedly to unveil the full trailer, which will be in early September, just 6 months before its release essentially. Now, let me just stop here quick for a second. Now, the fact that they are trying to delay the backlash as much as possible for this emergency plan for Snow White 2024, it goes to show you that they know exactly what's going on with this movie, why so many fans are beginning to get very fed up with all of it, and that just goes to show you also that Bob Iger is clueless. The fact that he thinks that dialing down the marketing for Snow White 2024 is going to improve anything to do with ticket sales, he's out of his mind, because no matter what you do, even if you release one trailer, that's all it takes for it to spread and for the backlash to grow even bigger than ever before. And the fact that they are really using this emergency plan to tame the backlash that they oversee and that they see looming, it just goes to show you that they don't believe in what they are making. They know exactly what they are doing. They are pushing an agenda with this movie, and it's really not for the genuine fans of this franchise that actually grew up with the Disney stories since many decades ago, mind you. I mean, Snow White has been around for well over 50 years, and to see them doing something like this is just absolutely horrible and disgusting. Now, there's been a lot of debate on whether or not those set leaks are real or fake, even though Disney did say they are not official images, quote unquote. You can translate to that as being nothing more than, images that are not directly from Disney, but taken by somebody that actually got a photo. That could very well be a translation to what Disney meant. But the thing about Rachel Zegler, and we've talked about Rachel Zegler, she is not a saint at all when it comes to Snow White 2024. She has said that there's going to be a lot of people that are really going to dislike this movie just because of the color of my skin. And that is going to be, of course, a very big subject later down the road. But that brings us to the next big scenario about why Bob Iger is also getting into a lot of heated arguments with the board. Now, this is also said to be part of Disney's cost containment plan by drastically limiting their marketing for many films, Snow White being the most intense limit for its marketing funding for those two reasons. Iger did indeed get in trouble from the board for mishandling the promotion of Snow White 2024. Disney reportedly wants to keep holding off on the Snow White 24 trailer, even past D23, to keep the backlash down to a bare minimum for as long as possible. Disney also already wants to make sequels to Snow White 24, much like The Lion King is getting a prequel focusing on Mufasa. However, those plans are now looking very bleak if that, of course, ends up being a major flop at the box office, in which it will, by the way, as they invested hundreds of millions into this project. Though the exact numbers are currently unknown, that is said to be one of the most expensive Disney movies in a long while, especially for 2024. Now, here is the bigger issue at hand here, guys, is that we know that basically Bob Iger is making a very bad call with Snow White. By dialing back on the marketing, you're only actually creating more damage than good. And this is why the board is also kind of having an issue with that, is that if you think about it, it's not going to change anything. In fact, I think what Bob Iger's doing is only going to make matters worse, because when you hold off on a trailer or a teaser or whatever it may be for as long as you can to tame the backlash, you're only getting closer to the release date. And that is only going to make things more prominent just before the movie arrives in March of next year. So here's the bigger plan at play here by Bob Iger, is that he knows that this movie is really going to tarnish his career, it's going to tarnish his legacy drastically, and he knows that. Bob Iger knows this, and he's a constant liar. We know that the Disney parks are really going down. A lot of you guys, by the way, have thankfully reported back to me. Those of you that went to Disney in California or Florida, Orlando, have said that the parks, at least in your experience lately, have been very much emptier than usual, and Bob Iger did address this and blames it on the humidity, at least in Florida. And that's terrible. Like, what kind of excuse is that? What kind of excuse is to blame that all on the humidity, where we really know what the bigger problem is at hand, is that it has a lot to do with not just the rate hikes, but with what's going on with their agendas over at Disney being forced down people's throats that are just driving people away, and it's not helping. It's no longer family friendly. So I would like to hear what you guys have to say about this whole Snow White fiasco below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night